Hi there, my name's Kristen Horler. I am the founder of Momletta, and I am so excited today to bring to you a entrepreneurial mom, Stephanie Hanrahan, and share with you a little bit about what she does and hopefully inspire you today. So Stephanie, would you please just introduce yourself to our moms, let them know a little bit about yourself, where you live, your family, and then we'll dive into what it is that you do.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for having me. So I'm Stephanie. I am wife to Sean and mother to my beautiful children, Campbell and Eli. They are 5 and 3. And what I do, up until about a year and a half ago, was just your seemingly average housewife, stay-at-home mom, just trying to get through the day. And I had a moment where I posted my most recent family photos, and everybody was commenting about how beautiful and perfect my life was, well-intendedly. And those comments just kind of, they stirred something in me, because I realized that I was posting my highlight reel, but not my real life, right? It was a portion of my real life, but a very small sliver. And I was so desperately, as a stay-at-home mom, searching for connection and community, and I was realizing that I was part of the problem of not finding that. I was only releasing half of my life, so how could people actually receive that? So I did something a little bit unorthodox. I made my private journal public and came out with my family's very colorful story, and to my surprise, my story went viral. And from that opportunity, I now am a speaker and full-time writer, and I get to work on many national platforms, but also share my truth on my website, Tinkles for Pants, which is for the moments that make you laugh, cry, and leap a little.
Oh, I love that. That's perfect. So I want to back up just a little bit, because right now we're in the midst of lockdowns and discussions of reopening. I know you're in Texas, I'm in Florida, so timing on everything is different based on where our moms live around the country. But when we talk about you working from home, having a family, if you could rewind, let's say 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and what your work life and your home life looked like then, can you share with us a little bit about what that looked like, if you can remember it? And then what's going on with it today, because we're not officially on summer break yet.
We're not. We are not. So I have a vague recollection of my children in school. My daughter had just started kindergarten, so this is quite a way to introduce her to the world of education. And my son is 3, and he was in full-time preschool. And I was a working mom. So I was spending my days writing and speaking and going to events that were women-centric. And for the first time in my life, really feeling fulfilled, because for the past 5 years, motherhood has been amazing, but there was a part of me as a woman who felt like I was missing something. So 8 to 10 weeks ago, I felt like everything was finally integrated. And then our world became very unexpected. So things have shifted quite a bit. I'm now still a working mom, but I'm also a stay-at-home mom, and I'm also a, I guess a teacher, because I'm doing e-learning with my daughter. And so it's been a very big shift, to say the least.
It's got to be a handful too, having a 3-year-old at home. How is that?
Yes. So I think it's worth mentioning my children also have additional needs. They both are on the autism spectrum. So in addition to teacher and, chef and chauffeur and mother and housekeeper, I'm also now their therapist, which has been a very hard challenge, because I always say we built this village around, it takes a village, is what moms always say. And therapists and teachers are like the mighty among that for me. And so that has been challenging, because children with autism really thrive with certainty and predictability and routine. And so I'm doing my best to bring that into the home, but it is not easy. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah. Well, my heart goes out to you. I recognize that my husband and I are very, very fortunate with our business, because we have 2 children in high school. So there's no
Yeah.
fear of one of them running out their front door or falling in the swimming pool. You know, they can make their own food for the most part, as long as we buy it at the grocery store. So we have different challenges, but my goodness, my heart goes out to you and all of our moms who have school-aged children, elementary school or even, preschool, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And then having your spouse home too, if you're not used to that, is an additional challenge in and of itself. So, yes. Well, I want to learn a little bit more about how you made this shift from what you recognized as what you were sharing on social media, right? The pictures you were posting, whatever it was that you were communicating publicly to the world, and then to one day realize or recognize, like, this is not, I'm not sharing my authentic self. Like, did something, a switch go on for you? Like, how did this happen?
So it was not a lightning bolt moment. It was a really slow build. So I will say this, I feel like I'm a self-appointed expert at the unexpected. My life from the word go has been a lot of trial, overcome, trial, overcome. And when I met my husband, he's arguably one of the most steady, consistent men which back then was really attractive. Now it kind of, drives you crazy. It's like, where's the spontaneity? But he's lovely. But I really felt like that was my, glass slipper moment. My life was just, I'm just going to coast from here on out. I had 2 miscarriages before we had our children, but once I had them, I felt like this is it, like life's complete, throw up the white picket fence. And then the summer of 2016, I got hit with my own personal pandemic. My husband, Sean, was getting out of bed. He was 31 at the time, former athlete, like the epitome of physical health, and he hit the ground. And I had a 6-week-old and a 2-year-old at the time. And the baby was at the bedside. He's screaming and woke up, and I woke up, and we go to Sean. And long story short, we found out that Sean has a really, really rare heart condition, one that is causing his heart just to be overworked and tired and prone to giving out, which is exactly what it did that Saturday morning. And we were also told that it's genetic, meaning both of our kids would have a 50% chance of having it as well. And the only cure would be a transplant. But we were 31, and transplants in his condition would only last 15 to 20 years. So 51 is not great, right? It wasn't good enough. So that summer, I had to learn my way around heart disease. The same month, I began seeing signs of autism in my daughter. And very soon after, as my son hit about a year old, I saw it in him as well. So in one complete year, it was a demolition and rebuild of like my faith, my family, everything. So I got really good at holding on to my pain and not posting it, or not even really sharing it with anybody. Unless you were in my really tight inner circle, you did not know about my husband's heart, my kid's autism, my past, which is everything from anxiety and abuse and everything in between. And so I became just convinced that the world did not want your cracks. They wanted your prettiest parts. And I was committed to that. I was going to do that forever. But what changed is I had opened a private Instagram the day my daughter was diagnosed. My husband didn't know about it. I didn't want any friends or followers. I just thought, I don't have an Instagram and I need a journal of some sort to be my real self. And if you look back at that first post, it's me with these like dark circles under my eyes from crying so much. And Campbell is just smiling because she has no idea what's going on. But that day I began journaling in that space. So I was posting my pretty publicly and my gritty personally and privately. And so what happened is one day when I posted that public family photo and got all those beautiful comments, I had been writing in that private Instagram for almost 2 years. So I knew what it was like to be free and to be myself. So it wasn't a big moment, like you mentioned, like the light switch didn't go on. It was like I had a space where I was practicing being my authentic self unknowingly. And so it felt so icky when people were like, oh my gosh, you're so perfect. And I'm like, no, I want to show you who I really am. And there's beauty in that too. And so that's what I did. I left my journal, that Instagram, unedited. It's the same Instagram if you go to my website now. And I still write like no one's watching. So it's been a really unexpected, beautiful gift.
Yeah. So I love to read, and I'm constantly, one book after another in my Audible account. And, something resonated with me that you shared. And what I'm getting from this is fear, right? Before you made that Instagram page public. So, is there anything in this journey, which is, obviously like just the beginning, right? Just the beginning of this journey, which is amazing. Is there anything that you can think back on, whether it was, in your childhood or expectations maybe that others had of you, that maybe put you in this space where you thought, this is what people want. People want, the pretty me, the white picket fence, my hair's done and my makeup's on before I take a photo, because I think a lot of us can connect with that. So is there anything that you can think of that?
Oh, for sure. I think it was, I think it's culturally taught, right? Like I think especially with the introduction of social media, where everything's filtered and posed and curated. And there's nothing wrong with posting a pretty photo. I just want to say that. And there's nothing wrong with like putting your highlights of your children out there, but just tell the real story behind it too, right? And it doesn't have to be publicly. It doesn't have to be in a really grand, big way. But even with your inner circle, you have to have some sort of space to be your real self. And I think in my childhood, I mentioned like I had a history of abuse, and there was all these things that had happened to me where what happened was these events that were occurring to me, I attached shame to them. So I just refused to talk about it because I'm like, oh, that's shameful. But shame just grows. Like the silence is what shame wants to breed and grow. And so eventually I became an adult who conceals instead of feels. I just didn't think, right? Like, I'm like, well, that's not what people want from me. That's not what they expect from me. If someone says, how are you? You're just supposed to say, I'm good. And so there was something really freeing about breaking through that and then seeing so many moms and women go, me too. And I think that's the message. I know we have a lot of moms on Momletta, and especially as you're getting your bearings in new motherhood, we lose so much of our identity when we have a child. And it's hard to, I remember showing up to play dates and being like, this is so hard. And that's not the answer my group was necessarily looking for. So you got to find the right people that will receive that and be like, me too, because they're out there.
Me too, and here's what's worked for me, or someone told me, right? Having those resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because there was, I remember having a realization one day several years ago on social media where there were some people that I was Facebook friends with, right? And I kept seeing these negative posts from them, right? Because talking about this like, oh, positive, beautiful life, as opposed to being real and authentic. And I realized, you know what, I can suppress them as far as you have choices, right? You can unfriend them, you can, I think, snooze them for 30 days. There's different options, right? And so I thought about that for myself and like, how authentically am I showing up when I'm showing up on social media? But I think what my takeaway from what you were sharing and my experience was along the lines of these people weren't being, maybe they were being their authentic selves, but the negativity that they were putting out there was not something I needed in my life. Complaining about traffic, making fun of someone's size of their body at the airport. Like those are the kind of people that, right, that's not being authentic.
No, I mean, I think that's a very interesting point to bring up because I get asked this a lot. How much is too much, right? And I think that there is a very fine line between oversharing and authenticity, right? And so I also think when you are in immense pain, and Corona has stirred that up in all of us, because the cyber world is a very divisive place right now. But when you're in immense pain, if I would have gotten online the day Sean's heart stopped or the day my daughter was diagnosed and just blurted out my story, it would feel more like a cry for help than using my story later on to help others, right? Because when that pain is like so fresh and raw, it's easy for people, even if you're well-intendedly posting, to be like, ugh, that's a little much. Like, I got to get away from that. Versus leaning in and being like, oh my gosh, she's come out of this. And look at how her perspective's changed, and look at how her story is now helping other people. And so I think there's a fine line. And when you're in that fresh, raw pain and you have so many things you want to share, that's when it's so important to have a community, a therapist, friends you can trust. Like, you've got to, that I unknowingly was doing that to the people at private Instagram, share there. But just when you're putting it out to other people, it does become more of a ugh than a lean in if it's not with the right intention, probably, or the right timing.
So do you have any tips or recommendations for moms out there who are struggling, whether it's with their relationship with their spouse or a family member, children with diagnosis, whatever it might be, infertility? I mean, when you're dealing with moms, the list is long and it keeps growing. So do you have any recommendations out there? I mean, set up a private Instagram, start blogging, get out a pen and a piece of paper, start writing as part of the process. Do you have any suggestions?
I mean, I would say tangible ways, like you just mentioned. What is, writing is therapeutic for me. Maybe running is for you. I don't know what your mental release is. I do firmly believe that the thoughts in your head have to come out somewhere, or they're going to come out at the wrong time with the wrong person somewhere, right? Like, I was taking my pain out on other people because I hadn't processed it yet. So I do think you have to have a space to be your real self. And if you're uncomfortable sharing it with other people, then you share it for yourself. The page or the stage, it doesn't matter. I'm still saying the exact same thing, but now people are watching. So I think that's important. I think another really big takeaway is, don't expect everybody to be receptive to your truth, because there are people that are not ready to be that vulnerable with you back, right? But then trust me, there's so many that are. Like, I have heard from women in over 150 different countries. They all come to me and tell me their stories. And the common thread, even if we don't have the same experience, is that feeling of just wanting to be seen, heard, know you're not alone. And I remember motherhood being incredibly lonely for me at first. I was sleep deprived. All my friends didn't have kids yet. I didn't know where to go, what to do. So having a space to be your authentic self, and don't discount the virtual villages too. So what you're doing right now with Mom Letta, find a blogger or somebody you can resonate with online, follow them. Like, just knowing that there's other people out there walking through the same thing as you is really comforting.
And one thing I have experienced to add to that is, I want to encourage our moms, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah.
Like, when I get an email from a mom saying, do you have a recommendation or a referral, or can you point me in the right direction? Even if she's not, part of my circle, or she was referred by someone else, I might not have the answers, but maybe I can point you in the right direction. That, what is the worst that can happen? That's always been my mindset. If you ask, worst that can happen is you don't get a response, or you get a no, right?
Yeah.
Did you die?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's hard, because if I didn't ask for a lot of help during my time, because I don't know what I was afraid of: pity, judgment, bringing my problems to other people when it wasn't their problem. I didn't want them to feel bad for me or have to go out of their way. But there's so many people that are suffering silently and hiding in plain sight, right? And so use autism as an example. The rate for autism is 1 in 54 children, okay? And usually most moms have probably 2 kids, maybe more. So I knew out of my 500 friends on Facebook back in the day, somebody on here must have a child with autism, but you can't see it in a photo, and no one was talking about it. And so again, here I am every night scrolling, feeling more and more alone. Logically, I am intelligent. I know there's got to be people out there. Why was no one talking about it? And as soon as I said something, even that very day when I just opened the blogs to my friends and family, I got 5 messages from people who I'd gone to high school with, college with, saying, my kids have autism too, and I've never told anyone. So it's just so amazing, the ripple effect of sharing your story.
Yes, absolutely. And I just commend you for being so brave because, you know, I love that you started this outlet privately, you know, because you needed that, right? And at some point, something shifted with you that you realized that somebody else needed to hear this too. So as you've grown, as your following has increased, as you're getting these wonderful messages from other moms that connect and are grateful, have you also hit that point of critics as well?
So yeah, yes, this is an interesting story. So I have been really lucky that 99.9% of the people who have followed me and joined my page and my mission are well-intended, kind, inclusive people. So I just don't tolerate anything otherwise, right? Because this is a community not just for me, it's for other women to share their stories and feel seen and accepted. So I have been very lucky with that. I will tell you, this is funny. So the first week I launched, and I didn't even know what a blog was. I didn't know what I was doing. But 2 of my my articles got picked up by a really major international publication. And I was so excited. I'm like, ooh, this means like I'm a real writer. I was a labor and delivery nurse before I was a stay-at-home mom. So I've always wanted to be a writer, but it was too risky for me. So I thought, oh my goodness, first week they picked these up. This is so exciting. I've made it. So I stayed up all night, waited for them to post, and the comments started flooding in, and I'm getting online to read them. And ooh, some were positive and some were not. And this was an article about breastfeeding, arguably like one of my more surface contents. And so from that day forward, have never read a single comment or review on any of the major sites that I'm on. And I've been on some pretty big ones. But here's the deal, and this goes for my real life. I am not responsible for response. I am only responsible for my truth. So if I wrote that and I believe it to be good and valuable truth, that's it. And so I have had things go majorly viral, and I don't know if those tens of thousands of people are saying she's a great writer, she should get a book deal, or if they're saying she's trash. I don't know, but I'm better for that. I have to protect my mental health and know that I'm not there to babysit anything. I'm there to be myself.
I am really happy to hear that. That's great. Good for you. I hope you keep that up.
I have thick skin, but you know where to like draw the line. And
yes,
you know,
yes. Yeah, and you know, the same thing goes for the books that I have been reading. I'm hearing the same thing from these women, these authors who have gone through these challenges, and they made the mistake of, and somebody hits the nerve, whether it's about their hair or their makeup, the way they speak, whatever it might be. So I think that's great that you don't read those comments. Sounds like a good way of focusing on your own health and your own sanity. Put your message out there, and the people who are your people who connect with you and what you believe will continue to follow, and hopefully the other ones will move on to something else or someone else, right?
And they do, because they're just keyboard warriors. They're not people who really probably, you're probably affected by it more than they are. They make their comment and leave, right? And then that changes our whole day, that criticism. So I have just chosen to just not look. And, that's been better for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. So I want to talk just a little bit here about how to navigate through the unexpected, because now is a perfect example of that. I mean, what would we be doing right now? I think most moms would be planning the summer vacation and making sure the kids were enrolled in summer camps and all these great things. And talk about uncertainty. We don't know if our kids are going to be going to school in the fall.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you have any tips for our moms who are listening as far as how to navigate? Because, you know, there will continue to be uncertainty throughout our life,
Yeah.
right? This is
Yeah.
obviously a big thing, but, you know, we're going to get through this. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think being optimistic, planning for, you know, the future, but right now in the here and now, you know, what tips do you have for our moms?
Okay, so the first thing I'll say is, you know, I think every mother is well versed at this, right? Having a plan for your day, and, you know, life intervenes and that plan has to shift. And that could be as small as, I'm sorry, I can't go to the play date, my baby has colic, or for our seniors that are really going through it right now. I think you said you had a senior, and I just wrote about this actually the other day that, you know, for me, academics have always been secondary. I want my kids to be raised as kind, resilient children to adults. And these seniors, bless them, they're getting like the best lesson in resilience right now, right? Like, what a wonderful quality to send them out into the world with. I know it didn't go as they expected, but they're getting this like key thing, which is the world keeps shifting and you've got to ebb and flow with it. And this is their final exam on resilience. So, you know, the takeaway for me is that we cannot control our circumstances, but when we can't control our circumstances, we finally have the ability to control ourselves, to change ourselves. Excuse me. And those are in the ways that I mentioned before, like showing up for yourself, finding that space to journal or speak your truth. What a little thing that I do throughout the day that really helps is I try to never use what I call forever statements. So it is totally okay to say, this is hard, I'm upset, this is challenging, this sucks. But then add on the end of those sentences, this is challenging right now. This sucks in this moment. There's something about changing your brain chemistry in that way where you can just add those little ideas in your mind that this isn't forever. This isn't permanent. It feels that way, but it's not. So that's a way you can show up for yourself. I think showing up for others is going to be really key to getting us through, because as we kind of talked about earlier, moms don't ask for help. And even if it's offered, they often don't accept it then. I know I didn't. People would call me during, you know, my whole summer tragic event and say, can I bring you food? Can I do this? And what do we always say? It's
I got
okay.
it.
I got it. Oh, it's fine. As I'm like, you know, dripping with babies and exhausted, and my husband can't even get out of bed. And I'm like, oh, I got this. It's totally fine. So here's the thing. We got to just show up for the people in our lives. I always give this beautiful example. It's from the book Option B, which was written by Sheryl Sandberg. She's the COO, I think, of Facebook, and her husband, Dave, unexpectedly passed away on a vacation. And so she said she remembers, she interviewed people for years after that, and she always said the one story that stuck out with her for doing things for people unasked was this. There was a couple that was in the hospital. Their daughter was dying of cancer. And friends would always ask, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? Let us know if you need anything. And then there was the one friend who called and said, hi, I'm downstairs with a bag of burgers and a hug. You can come if you want. If not, it'll be at the desk. And I tell you, that example always stuck with me, because it doesn't matter if they didn't want burgers or they don't eat meat or they are, you know, already ate earlier that day. It was just showing up in the act of doing something for them. I can see why that would stick. I mean, those are the moments that have helped me even after, you know, the big explosion in my family, is the random coffees on my door, or the people that notice that my daughter loves baking, but I'm not a baker, so they drop off muffin mix for her. And so like, it's just being awake and paying attention to the people in your life, especially the strong ones, because often those are the ones suffering too, and just are too afraid to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. Gosh, I love this. So many great little nuggets from our talk today. So we're going to wrap things up, but I wanted to just see if you had any parting thoughts for our moms, and then we'll be sure to share the link to your website and make sure everyone knows how to reach you. So any parting thoughts for today?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, you know, I had a list here, and I'll just read a few of them, is that, you know, self-care gets a really bad rap. because it's like manicures and pedicures and massages, and that is all out the window right now. The world's shut down. Even as it reopens, we may not feel comfortable doing that. And that takes time and money and resources anyway. So I wrote down some things that are helping me while in self-isolation, and I feel like they're tangible things that seem so small, but compiled together might help people start to move and feel better. So just a couple of them. Take a shower, turn off your screen, compliment someone, compliment yourself, get dressed. And by dressed, I mean like the nice loungewear, right? Like we don't have to do the full glam. Just get into those comfy clothes that are different than what you slept in. Order a new book.
That's a good one.
Yeah, just, the yoga pants are fine. Spend time with nature, order a new book, declutter a space, start small with a drawer, drink water, take a social media break. Laugh, journal, ask for help, eat one cheat meal a week in bed, video chat with friends, buy the good candles and actually light them, and order new loungewear. So those are the things that are kind of just helping me that I hope will help other women too, that we can do this. We can do this, we can do it together.
We can do this. I love that. Is that list posted anywhere on your blog?
I will send it to you. Yes, I'll send it or post it.
So what I'll do is I'll post this recording in the group, and then I would love it if you would post in the comments the list, and then if any of our moms listening could comment below on something that they're going to do, right? Something for themselves. I think I already grabbed like 6 things from that list. They're simple. They really are simple.
Yeah.
And
show it up for yourself.
It is. And it's so important because as moms, we pour ourselves into others, our children, our spouse, our work. And, if we don't take care of ourselves, what do we have left to give? So
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your time,
You're
Stephanie.
welcome.
It was so great to be able to share a little bit about what you're passionate about and hopefully inspire some of our moms. So I look forward to talking to you again soon, and have a great afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.